schaut zum Fenster hinaus, guten Tag, du Kind, lacht die Sonne uns alle aus, ist das ein Glück? Mädchen in dein weißes Kleid, bist im blauen Bad, Kindern, es ist höchste Zeit, fahr wir heut aufs Land. Ein häufiges Wort von mir, das mein Leben dream
That's our beloved Millie. That was her very well-known Viennese medley that she performed and recorded on the 100th anniversary commemorative concert with conductor Arthur Fiedler in 1962 with RCA Victor Records. Good afternoon, and welcome to this momentous celebration of life in art, music, and love for Mildred Miller Posvar. I'm Marianne Cornetti. I'm the artistic director for Pittsburgh Festival Opera, the company that Mildred founded in 1978, then known as Opera Theater of Pittsburgh. I can't tell you what an honor it is to be here today. During the next hour and a half or so, you will hear from former students, winners of her competition, colleagues, family members, and lifelong friends who, along with myself, are here to pay homage to this astounding artist and friend. She gave us all so much. It's time for us to give back to Millie. Millie was a force of nature, an extremely passionate artist and educator. Her love of singing came through each note, each phrase, and each word. But that's also how she educated her students. Each note, each phrase, each word. She was dedicated to educating the young and then the future stars of opera. She has touched so many singers for all of these years, and those singers are now passing on their knowledge to their students. I read a quote recently that teachers touch us for eternity. That's exactly what is happening with Millie. She taught us. We teach the next generation of students. They will continue to teach their students. Believe me, Millie's legacy is living and breathing through all of us, and it will live on for years and years to come. She's a legend. She will forever remain a legend, not only here in Pittsburgh, but around the world. Personally, the honor to be the extended arm of her company is immense. I will be forever grateful to her. In the prelude music you have just heard, Millie's dear longtime friend and acclaimed organist, Stephen Hamilton, and two of Millie's former students, mezzo-soprano Hannah Shea and baritone Tim Lefevre, beautifully singing some of the German lieder and oratorio music that Millie taught them. Tim is now Director of Division of Vocal Studies at Oberlin College. Hannah is on her way to a great career. Our string quartet is made up of former students of CMU and Duquesne University. I truly hope that you will enjoy this celebration of our Millie today.
Wow. So now how do I stand up here and not just sob? It is a celebration, and I can't tell you what an honor it is to see all of you here today and to hear my mother sing and have Marianne Cornetti, a world-renowned opera singer, be here, who created this program and is now leading the company that my mother founded and loved so dearly. Thank you, Marianne. So with that, my mom did lead the Opera Theater of Pittsburgh for 20-something years, and then Jonathan Eaton served the Opera Theater of Pittsburgh, later known as the Pittsburgh Festival Opera, for 21 years as general and artistic director, directing more than 40 operas. He currently serves the University of North Texas, America's biggest public conservatory of music, as director of opera and the Winspear Chair in Opera Studies. He led Sing for Ruhr 2010 Cultural Capital of Europe with 1 million singers in 53 cities, singing 500 concerts, culminating in the world's largest stage concert with 58,000 singers in a soccer stadium televised across Europe. Not many people can say that. But I also have to tell you that Jonathan is very special to me and my family. He was with us for all of those years and even joined our family in Stuttgart when my parents celebrated and renewed their vows in the same church in the old castle in the center of Stuttgart. It was a memorable moment, and we were grateful that Jonathan was there. We're grateful for everything Jonathan has done for the opera company, for me, my family, my mother. May I please ask Jonathan to come up and say a few words. And how fitting, Jonathan and Marion right here, and I'm in the middle.
But you're singing the best song.
Oh, there you go.
Thank you. Well, thank you for such a generous introduction. Let me turn our attention back to Millie. I look around and I see and have greeted at the entry beaming faces, all those people whom I got to know over 20 years here. But then I remembered Millie's beaming face, and one of the qualities that so impressed me was that when she smiled with her eyes, and that smile infected all around her, and they would smile back, and this radiance of Millie was one of the things that touched me most. Her consistent support and devotion to the company, to her family, to the singers, was something that kept me here for a long time and made me sad to leave, but happy for the memories that I carried with me. This is a memorial service, and so it's full of memories. While on one level it has a somber note, on another level it's joyful. And as has been pointed out, it's a celebration. It's often said that Millie had 3 careers. The career of an opera singer, world class, with 25 productions in which she sang Cherubino at the Met, a string of Carmens and other roles all over America and Germany and some of Northern Europe. A career as a founder and director of an opera company named Opera Theatre, which was a very interesting inflection to suggest that she was as interested in the theatrical as the musical side of opera, which is not so common, and a career as a teacher. And we've just heard Hannah singing so beautifully, who was one of Millie's students at Carnegie Mellon. I would like to posit that she has a 4th career, which I'll talk about in a little moment. But since we're on the 4s, Millie had many, many qualities, but I'd just like to pick out 4. The first quality I'd like to mention is that of intrepidity. She was an intrepid creature. She was bold, she was courageous. I'm reminded of 2 or 3 instances where her intrepid nature came to light. Once, for instance, when I was rash enough to suggest that opera theatre should do a ring cycle, she said, "Are you crazy?" Indeed, the ring cycle, for those who are not opera fans, is deemed to be the greatest mountain that you can climb in the world of opera repertoire. But when I explained the circumstances in which I thought this could take place, she said, "Go for it, mad boy." And so we did, and we did a ring cycle with the Pittsburgh Symphony playing for it, and another cycle in Long Beach, which she came to, and then she hailed it as in some ways the high point of what she had been able to achieve with her company. And it was her company. I was proud to step into her shoes, sometimes to step into her shadow. There were no issues between the incoming director and the outgoing director of any of the sorts of issues leading new directors to bring in a fresh broom and a clean sweep. It was a wonderful evolution, thanks to Millie, and here's her second quality, her graciousness. She was so gracious. She had been at the heights of the opera world. She was in many ways a diva, but she was more of a star, an opera star, than what one might associate with the opera diva. She had no sense of any special importance allocated to her as a singer from the Met. On the contrary, in her second career as a company founder and director, she was all for reaching out to the widest group of people and infusing them with a love of music and with opera. And so when I applied for the job here, and the previous production I was doing was at the Royal Opera Covent Garden, she called me up on my opening night to wish me luck and said, "Jonathan, don't let this Covent Garden nonsense go to your head now. Do you know what you're going to be doing when you come back to Pittsburgh? Your first production will be Little Red Riding Hood for elementary and secondary schools, middle schools in the Pittsburgh Educational District." And so it was, and I was so glad to do that. She reinforced our commitment to education and her interest in spreading music far and wide, all the way through the 20 years we spent together. She reinforced significantly a center of focus of works based in some of our African American communities. She was proud when Opera America, at one of the national conferences they do each year, lauded opera theatre as an example of a mid-sized company which reflected most powerfully the ethos of inclusivity. That's a bit of a vogue word these days, but Millie embodied it. She wanted music to go from the grassroots to the top, whether that be from Pittsburgh Public Schools to the Met, or whether it be from communities in the Hill District here to our downtown theatres. That, if you like, is a quality of inclusivity, which goes along with, I think, her graciousness and her intrepid qualities. Some of these all came together. You mentioned kindly that I was at Millie's 50th wedding celebration and reaffirmation of vows in Stuttgart. Millie came to my wedding in England, in Cambridge, some 5 years ago. And I have a memory that leaps out. Imagine yourself in one of those great country houses of England with gorgeous gardens and herbaceous borders, as they call them. And along comes a motorized, disabled wheelchair, driving at top speed along the flower borders, whipping off a few flower heads as it went along, pursued by a 12-year-old on another motorized wheelchair, in a race for the, for the final ice cream at the end of the race. And the first chair was Millie, in her accessible motorized capacity. And my 12-year-old stepson lost to Millie, and she woohooed when she got there and got the first ice cream. I suppose you could call that some of her intrepidity, but she was indeed a bold creature. She was also devoted, and this is a quality that I value more and more as I grow older. She was not a fair weather friend. When you came to work for opera theatre, you didn't work just for a firm, you became a member of a family. And I was so happy to be accepted into the Posvar family by Millie, by her husband, by her 3 children, and continue to be so accepted. This is a reflection on their mother, on Millie, who was as devoted to her family as she was to her art. And I'm suggesting that this would be her 4th career. As well as a singer, a company founder, and a teacher, she was also a mother to her family and a wife, and in many ways in my 20 years here, became a second mother to me. She once said to my father, who came for a production here, the first production I did, "Don't worry, Jim, we'll look after your boy." And so she did, and that made me very happy. So of those qualities, and I know there are many more, they rest in my mind. Let me say one more memory which preceded me being here, but we had a general manager, a lovely gentleman called Scott Tim. He was a ballet dancer and a dancer, and many years ago, Mildred was invited to sing Carmen at Pittsburgh Opera. Wonderful company here in town. I'm sure many of you know it well. I heard a little story incidentally, that when she was first invited to sing Carmen here, was the same season and year that her husband came to the university as chancellor, and she turned it down because she didn't want to be playing a low-life opera star when her husband was joining a high-life educational community. And she deferred it, and then did take the stage as Carmen. And Scott Tim, the aforementioned general manager, and his dance colleagues had been directed to throw flowers towards the leading lady in the middle of her habanera. He did, at the wrong moment, in the middle of her high note, and the flower hit her right on the forehead. She didn't lose a beat, and finished the high note, stooped down to pick up the flower, waved it around, then threw it straight back at Scott Tim and hit him on the chest. And this was a lovely way, a bold way of dealing with her life. Her boldness, her generosity of spirit, her graciousness, her humor, her practicality, her devotion to family and to our company. She never missed a board meeting, always had supportive words, all remain with me. And I know that through all of us who had close connections to us, that radiated out to fill a chapel like this. She once also said, "John, why don't we do a mile and a night visitors in Heinz Chapel?" Said I, "Great idea, Millie, let's do it." And so it was. And the last time I stood up here was for a performance of A Mile and a Night Visitors, that lovely Christmas opera with the Pittsburgh Youth Symphony accompanying us, and thinking, well, Millie's presence in my life and our company's life has brought nothing but good. A radiant personality who lives with us all in our hearts and our smiles. Thank you, Mildred. I should now leave the platform, but it's my pleasure to introduce the next musical number, which will be a Millie favorite. And actually, if you turn to the page of photographs in your program book, the second page of photographs, has a picture of Millie as Rosencavalier. And that picture used to hang in her apartment. Lovely picture. And there's a famous trio from Rosencavalier that she sang in, and we're to hear that trio now this afternoon with Midori Marsh, who will be singing the Marschallin, and was one of the first place winners of the 2023 Mildred Miller International Voice Competition. Midori is a recent graduate of the Canadian Opera Company's Young Artist program and will be making her debut singing a world premiere song cycle with the London Symphonia, and will be a Filene artist for Wolf Trap Opera this summer. So we pick 'em good here in Pittsburgh. Hannah Shea is singing Octavian, Millie's role. She was a student of Millie for all 4 years of her attendance at Carnegie Mellon and graduated in 2018. She was a young artist at Washington National Opera from 21 to 23, has just finished workshops at the Metropolitan Opera for their 24 season opener, Grounded by name, and she'll soon be making her debut with the Buffalo Philharmonic singing Beethoven's Ninth. Julia Laird will sing Sophie. Julia sang Lucy from Monotti's Telephone for the summer of 2022 for Pittsburgh Festival Opera, and is completing her time as resident artist for Pittsburgh Opera. And my old friend Glenn Lewis is sitting at Joanna, and he's going to accompany me. Thank you all so much. Here's to Millie.
if you were at the funeral, you knew that I did the same thing. I missed my cue. Okay, that was so beautiful. Thank you so much. So now it gives me great pleasure to introduce and a singer that, well, if you are a listener of WQED Classical Radio FM, you know her name and you certainly know her voice, but she's also an opera singer. And she's sung with the New York City Opera, including title roles in Aida and Madame Butterfly, Tosca, Salome, and also with the Pittsburgh Opera, most recently as Julia Child in Lee Hoybe's, if I pronounced that correctly, Bon Appetit.
Bon appetit!
Bon appetit! Okay. Oh, boy. And, but she's also performed in numerous productions for the Pittsburgh Festival Opera, Pittsburgh Opera Theater, including one that was most memorable for me, Sweeney Todd. Oh my God, it was amazing. She served, and still does, I believe, on the board of the Opera Theater. And, but she continues, so she has emceed the Mildred Miller Posvar International Voice Competition many times, including the first one and the most recent one this past September. She's multi-talented. In fact, she's a visual artist. Her paintings are gorgeous. And I've known Annie, I'm going to call her Annie, since college. We didn't go to the same school. I went to Penn State, by the way. But we know each other through mutual friends outside of the opera world, and it gives me great pleasure to have you here and celebrate with us, Annie.
I have all my electronics here because, you know, everybody does electronica. And let's hope none of them fail. Thank you, Lisa. It's really a pleasure to be here. I enjoy a good coincidence almost as much as a good mystery. In 1967, the Posvars moved to Pittsburgh. That same year, the movie To Sir with Love was a box office smash. The movie had several themes, one of which was young people reaching their potential with the help of a strong role model. The role model in the movie was a teacher played by Sidney Poitier. In the final scene, underscoring the farewells between teachers and students, one of the students, played by the British pop singer Lulu, sang a haunting tune that became the #1 song of 1967 in the United States, also entitled To Sir with Love. Here's a snippet of the lyrics. How do you thank someone who has taken you from crayons to perfume? It isn't easy, but I'll try. I am so grateful that my life intertwined with the uncommon life and legend of Mildred Miller Posvar. I know Millie would bristle at the idea, but she was simply a cut above the rest of us. Pretending otherwise would be foolish. With the exception of her extraordinary husband, Chancellor Wesley Posvar, she simply did not have peers. I mean, really, who does what this woman did? Maintaining a world-class operatic career while raising 3 exceptional children with her Rhodes Scholar, first in his class at West Point husband, coming to Pittsburgh and taking the city and University of Pittsburgh into her heart and home, and making sure that all who met her knew that she was one of them, not above them. Then, after accomplishing all of that, devoting the next 4.5 decades to sharing her craft with legions of aspiring young performers, many of whom would have fulfilling careers as a result of her commitment to the art form. My first introduction to this force of nature was as a high school student when I attended a performance of The Crucible staged by Pittsburgh Opera, in which she sang the role of Elizabeth Proctor. Right then and there, I gained another inspirational role model, joining Beverly Sills and Carol Burnett, whom I only experienced on television, to fuel my personal dream of becoming an opera singer. Yes, I know. Everybody's a critic. A few years later,
my mother and I were invited to tea at the home of my dear friend, Mary Odom, and her mother, Polly, where Millie and her daughter, Lisa, were in attendance. By that time, Millie had become aware of my studies and aspirations. She took an interest in my game plan, but was not overly effusive. She knew this business was not for the faint of heart and wanted to make sure that I had the talent, training, and tenaciousness to make it. As I'm sure you all know, Millie did not believe in trophies for participation. Several years passed, and as a neophyte professional singer with a few notches in my belt, she invited me to come back to Pittsburgh to sing the role of Cho-Cho-san in Madama Butterfly with Opera Theater of Pittsburgh. I greatly benefited from this experience and her tutelage. Millie didn't do things halfway. If the public was going to pay its hard-earned cash to attend a performance, it needed to be the best it could be. Accordingly, Millie brought in women skilled in the art of geisha to help immerse the cast in their roles and let them better understand their ceremonial costumes. The importance of understanding everything about a particular role, including its cultural and historical context, has stayed with me throughout my career as a performer and as a teacher. When it came to striving for excellence, Millie was all in. Speaking of being all in, I think most folks appreciate that operatic performers, like their counterparts in theater, work hard to get into character. Sometimes that character inhabits one's psyche so deeply that it's hard to break the connection even after the final curtain drops. Much has been written of Millie's identification with several important roles in opera, including the role of Cherubino from The Marriage of Figaro, which she performed 61 times with the Metropolitan Opera alone. Over a decade after her last performance of Cherubino, Millie was preparing a production of The Marriage of Figaro with Opera Theater of Pittsburgh, in which I was performing the role of the Countess Almaviva. Some of you may also recall that Millie mounted an earlier production of this opera with Renee Fleming in the role of Susanna. In any event, returning to the production in which I participated, we were in the dress rehearsal, and things were moving along smoothly until, well, let me set the stage for you. We're in the final scene, at the point where all of the masquerades, treacheries, and mistaken identities have been revealed. The Count and Countess are facing each other down front, center stage, and all of the other characters are arranged in a semicircle, surrounding them at some distance. For the record, Cherubino is far stage right, and neither he nor any of the other characters are singing or engaged in the action, except, of course, reacting with facial expressions. It's a poignant moment. The Count, having much to be embarrassed about, sings his sincere apology to the Countess, who magnanimously is inclined to give the old boy another chance. I, as the Countess, was just beginning to sing a beautiful passage that loosely translates to, "How can I refuse to forgive you, for my heart loves you so." Suddenly, the moment is shattered by the voice of Millie charging from the back of the hall toward the stage. "Stop! Stop! You're standing in Cherubino's light!" When you care so much about your roles, it's not surprising that a compelling character like Cherubino might convince you to be his loyal advocate for life. And indeed, loyalty was another prominent virtue of Millie. One of the joys of life is sharing the journey with people that you care about and who care about you as well. It was my privilege to admire, learn from, and simply enjoy Millie for 47 years. Even in her final years of diminished vigor, she never broke character and remained an elegant and refined presence in our lives. As always, Millie showed us how it was to be done. Wes, Marina, Lisa, thank you. Thank you so very much for sharing your mother with us throughout your lives, and thank you especially for putting in the extra effort to let her circulate with her adoring public during the final chapter. we all owe you. To Millie, with love. Thank you. And now I get to introduce the next number, which is just going to be fabulous. I'm so excited to introduce the third place winner of the most recent Mildred Miller Posvar International Vocal Competition, Alexa Frankian. And she is just 23 years old. She's already made a significant stride in her career, singing Verdi, Wagner, and Puccini. And she recently found out she'll be participating in the Marilla program for San Francisco. Joining her will be Kenneth Huber at the piano, Stephen Hamilton playing organ, and the men's chorus, which will all be under the direction of Mark Trofka from the Pittsburgh Opera. We're going to hear a bit of Verdi, La forza del destino, La Vergine degli Angeli, my goodness. I'm a radio announcer, what's that about? La Vergine degli Angeli from La forza del destino.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me? I apparently have to get, can you hear me okay? Is this better? Yeah. Okay. The microphone gain is whatever. I'm going to ad-lib just one quick thing. You know, this music today is so stunning, and it's really a reminder that we need to maintain the arts in elementary and secondary education to identify and develop talent. None of these musicians started last week, and when you see school districts around the country dropping arts because it costs too much, it's a tragedy because music would die if we don't maintain it. Well, thank you. The applause really belongs for my mother, of course. I had always thought of Mark Nordenberg mainly as a successful chancellor and ex-chancellor based upon what you read in the papers. But then I hadn't introduced him to a group before. Doing my homework revealed some interesting background information about Mark and his family. Mark is a transplant native of the region, his father moving here with U.S. Steel from Minnesota. Graduating from North Allegheny High School, he attended Teal College in Greenville up above Grove City, then went off to Wisconsin for law school. Bringing his family with him, of course, Mark returned to Pittsburgh as a visiting professor in 1977, 10 years after the Posvar family arrived here in Pittsburgh. And that's when some interesting parallels between his career and family and my parents' careers and family began. Both Mark and my father were fast-rising academics while still in their 30s. I think my father saw something of himself when he named Mark dean of the law school when Mark was only 37 years old. Both Mark and my father were named chancellor while they were in their 40s. Both led Pitt at a time of its need, and when leaving the post after long tenures, both left the university in vastly improved, even great condition. Both Mark and my father were married to professional women. Both families had 3 children, most of those growing of age in that half-home, half-institutional chancellor's residence on Devonshire Street. Accordingly, Mark understands the total experience of chancellor, parent, and spouse of a professional. I cannot think of anyone more qualified than Mark Nordenberg to reflect on my mother's experience and success as wife of chancellor, mother of 3, and professional woman with 3 careers, as Jonathan pointed out, performer, artistic director, and professor. Those 20-plus year careers were all consecutive, by the way, all rolled into one. So without further ado, Mark Nordenberg.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is great to see Heinz Chapel packed for such a special occasion. And it reminds me of the many chancellors' concerts for the holiday season when the place would be packed and the Nordenbergs would be seated at the front on the left and the Posvars would be seated at the front on the right. Those are very precious memories. And I thank you, Wes, for that kind introduction. Anyone who ever draws any kind of parallels between your father and me is presenting me with a badge of honor. And so I really do appreciate that. And I also want to say from the very start that we all owe a deep debt of appreciation to you and your sisters, Lisa and Marina, both for sharing your parents with the broader university family for so many years, and for arranging and shaping this amazing tribute to the life of such an inspiring and accomplished person, your beloved mother. When I joined the law faculty here as a visiting assistant professor, just about the lowliest form of academic life, more than a few years ago, as Wes indicated, I viewed Wes and Millie Posvar as the equivalent of academic royalty. Many things have changed since then about the university, about me and my ideas, but that assessment of Wes and Millie has stayed the same. And I wonder how it could possibly have changed. First, in his class at West Point, a Rhodes Scholar and a test pilot, Wes flew in the Berlin airlift. He was chair of the political science department at the U.S. Air Force Academy and achieved the rank of brigadier general before he came to Pitt and began nearly a quarter century of distinguished service as chancellor. If anything, though, it was the extraordinarily talented and ever-glamorous Mildred Miller who was more regularly in the national and international spotlight. Jonathan and Anna obviously are better positioned to comment on that part of her life than I am, and they have done so. But even for a less cultured soul like me, there are some things about her background that really stand out, such as 338 performances at the Met, or singing at the White House retirement dinner for Chief Justice Earl Warren, and singing the national anthem at Three Rivers Stadium for the first ever night World Series game are two things that caught the attention of this lawyer sports fan. And having grown up in the 50s and 60s, the fact that she appeared on the Ed Sullivan program, just like the Beatles, is a pretty clear sign of her star power. It really isn't any mystery then why at a very early point in my tenure as chancellor, I literally would turn to my wife and ask, what in the world are you and I doing in Millie and Wes's jobs? There was no satisfactory answer to that question, then or now. But a source of comfort came from Millie herself when, in an early congratulatory reception at the University Club, she and Wes came through the receiving line and she leaned in close to me and said how pleased they were with my appointment. And because the two of them had set the standard, that really meant a great deal to me. At a very early point, Millie also took Nikki out for lunch. She gave her a Golden Panther pin and 3 particular bits of advice. Be yourself, maintain your own interests, and protect your husband by stopping all of the people who want to be overly helpful to him so that he doesn't lose his own ability to deal with the challenges that come as a part of ordinary life. It would seem, though, that the road that Wes traveled to the chancellor's office at Pitt was paved to some extent by Millie interceding in one of those ordinary life events. In an article in the Pitt News, discussing preparations for his job interview here. She is quoted as saying, "Wes had the most god-awful conglomeration of clothing." They were not at home, in fairness to him. He wanted to wear his uniform, but this was not the time for that. In fact, most of the staff did not want to meet him because he was in the military. Millie called Brooks Brothers in New York, where she was known, and told them, "I need an instant suit." We dressed him up in a pinstripe suit, and he looked almost decent, so we let him go. The rest, of course, is history. Wes's appointment led to both personal satisfactions and professional concessions for Millie. The first of which Jonathan already referred to, when she had years earlier contracted to perform in the role of the gypsy girl in Carmen, only to find that it would occur shortly after her husband had been elected chancellor. She did pass on that assignment, and her explanation offered in the New York Times was a little less sterile than the one that Jonathan offered a few minutes ago. This is what she said. Her Carmen was young, kittenish, and much too sexy for the wife of a newly appointed university chancellor. Over time, the Pitt-imposed limitations on Millie's career became more a matter of time than of propriety. A 1968 issue of Pitt magazine included an article listing some of the duties she had assumed, saying she attended at least one official gathering each day, she stood for hours in reception lines, she served as hostess to the large numbers of people from wide-ranging groups who were invited to the chancellor's residence. And to accommodate these new responsibilities, she did significantly curtail her appearances, even though she was at the peak of her career. Millie, as also has been noted by Jonathan and Anna, was a devoted parent. When the family moved to Pittsburgh, Wes was 16, Marina was 13, and Lisa was 7. Meaning that they did a lot of growing up in the chancellor's residence. I need say very little about Millie's performance in the role of mother, because the strongest irrefutable evidence of her success is the presence of her 3 adult children with us today. Millie remained fiercely loyal to Wes and committed to Pitt throughout the 51 years of their marriage and beyond. When we dedicated Posvar Hall to honor Wes, I'm not sure whether it brought more joy to Wes or to Millie. What I do know is that the building was on the next Christmas card that came from the Posvar family. Some years after his passing, we were given the opportunity to name a suite at the Thayer Hotel on the campus at West Point in honor of Wes as one of the Academy's truly distinguished graduates. The exhibits in that suite reflect both his military career and his accomplishments at Pitt. Rennie Clark, my chief of staff, worked most closely with Millie and other members of the family in making choices about what should be displayed there. He regularly reported on Millie's interest in that project and later referred to her as a matriarch of the University of Pittsburgh, someone who was deeply committed to Pitt and its people without being intrusive. The long tenure of Wes Posvar as Pitt's chancellor brought some of the greatest accomplishments in the long and proud history of the university. I know that if Wes was here today, he would say that the successes we enjoyed could not have been achieved without Millie, that he needed her help, her support, her wise counsel, and that the university benefited greatly from her ability to build relationships and to energize people who were positioned to help propel the university forward. How lucky we are that this woman of the world embraced Pitt and its namesake city as her adopted homes and worked with such dedication as a full partner with her husband to effectively advance them both. Thank you, Millie. I was not asked to address or to introduce the next musical group. Oh, but I have something to say, unless you're going to wrest the podium from me, because it is my good fortune that the next group to perform is the Pitt Men's Glee Club, a group that not only was a favorite of Millie's, but also was a favorite of mine. And a group that entertained at many events that I hosted over the course of 19 years as chancellor. But I really want to begin with just a bit of history, because the history of Pitt also describes an early interaction between Millie Posvar and the Pitt Men's Glee Club. Apparently, they had assembled at the university residence to perform. And once they had completed what they had planned, she suggested that they do something more and that she join with them. A member of the group said, unfortunately loudly enough for others to hear, "Oh, the chancellor's wife thinks she can sing, huh?" Well, of course, she proved that she could sing. And then in an effort to recover, but actually only digging a deeper hole, this same young man said, "Oh, you're pretty good. Have you ever thought about a career in music or something?" So with that as an introduction, I would like to present the Pitt Men's Glee Club, which is the oldest performance group on campus. And they are here today under the direction of Richard Peaster, their conductor. Welcome. It's good to be with you guys again.
One, two, three. Let us pause in life's pleasures and count its many tears, while we all sob sorrow with the poor. It's a song that will linger forever in our ears. Oh, hearts
That was so much fun. Thank you. My mom definitely, I don't know whether to stand on this or not. This is Annie Singer wanted this thing here. Okay. That was so fabulous. My mom really enjoyed that. I tell you, she's here right now in spirit, and she's loving this entire day. Thank you, Marianne, and everybody. Okay, I try not to cry. Okay, so I'm standing here to introduce our next speaker, who's Kenneth Huber, and he has the most fabulous story to tell, and I'm not going to spoil it. But he is married to Stephen Hamilton, the organist, and they are quite a pair. Wes and Maureen and I have really enjoyed getting to know them this past few days, and enjoyed hearing the stories that Ken has, and both have, about Millie. But just a little bit of background. Ken taught at Carleton College in Minnesota, a private liberal arts school, there for 23 years, and also at the Virginia Intermount College and Westminster Choir College in Princeton, New Jersey. And he's given master classes and given lectures all over the US at major universities and colleges. And if you're ever in the Twin Cities area, which is where they live, he might be able to squeeze you into his private piano schedule. You know, he's quite popular. But like, one of the most interesting things I learned about him is that in 1968, he began a 4-year tour of duty as concert pianist with the United States Navy Band in Washington, serving as the accompanist for the Navy Chorus, called the Sea Chanters, and they did more than 350 engagements, including at the White House. So I think that's pretty cool. So where are you, Ken? Where are you? There you are, come on up.
Thank you, Lisa, Marina, and Wes, for inviting me to share my recollection of your mother. Mildred Miller Posvar played a pivotal role in shaping my personal and professional life. It has been a humbling labor of love to review our 63-year friendship while preparing these remarks. As noted in my 7th grade diary on May 30th, 1959, my dad, who worked at the Air Force Academy, took me to hear opera star Mildred Miller sing with the cadet chorale. My diary confirms I attended a second Academy appearance by Millie on June 4th, 1961. Little did I know those concerts would change my life forever. Millie's stage deportment and eye-popping couture always seduced her audience. My notations in the diary indicate her work clothes on those occasions were gowns of lustrous gold satin and dazzling crimson, backless and strapless. When offering an encore, she whipped the red gown around and announced, "Carmen for my boys." But it was truly her unanticipated, glorious voice and consummate musical artistry that left an indelible impression on my young ears. Her instantly recognizable unique mezzo-soprano and her supreme command of the sung word remained etched in my oral memory. As an impressionable teenage wannabe artist, I was totally smitten. Additionally, it was her confidence, energy, and artistic truth, not her celebrity, that inspired my artistic soul. From those powerful initial impressions, memories of Millie have surfaced every day of my life. I first met her On March 13th, 1962, after she rehearsed Mahler's Songs of a Wayfarer with the Colorado Springs Symphony. After introducing myself, she asked about my career aspirations and plans for conservatory study. When I went backstage to congratulate her the following evening, she was animatedly speaking German with an admirer. She immediately remembered me and asked if I thought she did better than she did at the rehearsal. She was tuning up my ears. Her award-winning interpretation of those songs resonated deeply. Hearing all that German sparked a fantasy of performing Lieder with her, a dream that would eventually come true. Millie taught me the importance of keeping in touch. For over 55 years, we kept up a remarkable personal correspondence. I treasure a telegram she sent the day of my Indiana University senior recital. In a handwritten letter of November 16, 1966, she wrote, "I'm delighted I have inspired someone in this world." Her ongoing care and concern became a model for my own letter-writing passion. Millie looked forward to every opportunity to visit in person. In 1962, we spent a summer afternoon together. She proposed a deal. If I would play my recital repertoire, she would try out some Wolf and Schubert for me. She was preparing for an upcoming recital in New York City's prestigious town hall. Done. Her generosity extended to secretly pay for tickets for town hall's prime box, no less, and my first New York City hotel room. It was that recital that taught me just how intensely Millie connected with her audience. She seemed to sing directly to everyone individually in that sold-out concert hall. The most unforgettable intimate visit was to her and Wes's gorgeous home, the Chancellor's Residence, on July 20th, 1969. Do any of you remember Apollo 11? The Posvar family, Millie's sister Margot, and I watched that astounding event together. When Armstrong took his historic step and made his unforgettable proclamation, Millie burst into singing the Star-Spangled Banner, and Wes was as animated as if he himself were standing on lunar soil. Wes knew Buzz Aldrin, who was also now on the moon with Armstrong. We were ecstatic. Millie celebrated by cooking a gourmet veal scallopini. In 1977, my husband Stephen Hamilton and I invited Millie to sing at the college where we both taught. Graciously accepting our lowball fee, she declared, "And of course, you'll play for me." In rehearsal, her attention to vocal detail was evident when admonishing me to play a chord the moment she spit out the T in Nacht. We went over and over it. I soon learned that committed singers like Millie are never satisfied at rehearsals, but spontaneously give everything for written performances. The audience went crazy. Furthermore, her desire to connect led her to ask half of our audience to move to seats closer to the stage. She quipped, "I'm a singer who likes to see the eyes of her audience." On a more personal note, Millie taught Stephen and me the importance of being and having a supportive spouse. She often spoke about sacrifice and said that when her career was down, Wes supported her. And when Wes's career was down, she buoyed him. and she truly was the epitome of leading a compartmentalized life. Mildred Miller, Millie Posvar, and Mommy. Millie's larger-than-life personality, strikingly marked with her passion for life and music, lives on in all of us. Two of my former students recently reminded me that my mentoring, the importance of which I learned from Millie, continually touches their lives. Apparently, my tree didn't spring too far from Millie's apple. She would be gratified to know her legacy is still shaping the future. My last touching interaction with Millie occurred on January 4th, 2023. Lisa set up a speaker phone call. I reminisced nonstop for over 30 minutes. When asked if her mother were responding, Lisa assured me that she was smiling and nodding contentedly. When I hung up from that call, I too was smiling and nodding, all through copious tears, very much like we here today. Thanks, Millie, for changing our lives forever. We will always love you. And now let us revel once again in Millie's glorious artistry as we listen to her recording of the second song from Mahler's Lieder eines fahrenden Gesellen, Ging heut Morgen übers Feld.
Nicht eine schöne Welt
Rob Frankenberry has been a longtime friend of Millie's and Pittsburgh Festival Opera. Starting in 2001, conducting and singing, he then became the director of the Summer Festival for years. He's now on the voice faculty of Point Park University and associate producer with Resonance Works. He will be singing a special tune, It's You I Like, from Fred Rogers' opera that Pittsburgh Festival Opera did it with Jonathan in 2019. Enjoy it.
It's you I like. It's not the things you wear. It's not the way you do your hair. But it's you I like. The way you are right now. The way down deep inside you. Not the things that hide you, not your toys, they're just beside you. But it's you I like, every part of you, your skin, your eyes, your feelings, whether old or new. I hope that you'll remember, even when you're feeling blue, that it's you I like, it's you yourself, it's you. It's you I like.
When I had chosen You'll Never Walk Alone, little did I know that this was one of Mildred's favorite songs that she had sung for many, many, many occasions. Today we have Colin Akins, who was a young artist with Pittsburgh Festival Opera in 2020 and 2021. He is now in his second year of his master's program at the Juilliard School. I would like to say, on behalf of Wes and Marina and Lisa and myself, how much we thank you all for being here today to celebrate our beloved Millie. She was a force, a wonderful, wonderful woman. Please remain seated until the program is completely over. You'll understand what I mean.
Good Thank you.